All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the market and where we're heading, because obviously the market up to this point has performed so incredibly well and so unsustainable that there was bound to be some sort of correction. We've gone pretty much the better part of the last 24 to about 30 months of some pretty ridiculous upswings in the coin market, all across the board, from some of the oldest coins and ancients all the way up to where we're sitting right now in the modern era of coinage. And doesn't matter if it's U.S. or Canadian or Australian or someplace else. We have seen a meteoric rise. I would say the entire market as a whole probably jumped in this 24-month span a good 60 to 70, 75% all across the board. You remember them days where I used to pop up the PCGS price guide and all you saw was green arrows going up and up and up all over the place? It was kind of crazy. And a lot of those same coins have flatlined right now. A lot of the mid-state 63, 64 Morgan dollars have flatlined. They've hit their peak. They're quite common, especially for the more available dates like the 82O, the 82P, 84s, 83Os, things like that. They're quite available out there. And you know, people were kind of hyped up into it. I think it was more of a selling opportunity for a lot of people that did hold on to those, because keep in mind these I'm a they're kind of a mediocre grade, right? It's like, this is what I like. I like these coins, and they were widely available for cheap. You used to get them for like 35, 40, 45, $50 2 years ago, and it was like the best bargain. It's like, I'm guaranteeing myself a 130-year-old coin. It's silver, it's gorgeous, and I don't have to worry about it, as opposed to worrying about picking up that 1889 CC Morgan dollar that has a tremendous a lot more value because of its scarcity. But, we are living in a different time right now. We're exiting the pandemic period, but there's also other things at work. Sorry, I'm typing here while talking. Sometimes I could, multitask, but I wouldn't necessarily 100% agree that I can do both at any given time. It really depends on how much sleep I got the night before. But we're in a period. We're kind of in this funny transition moment in the economy. The Fed raised rates by 0.75%, which obviously to help combat the economy. The economy is moving way too fast than it should. And then there's a bunch of other external forces going on as well. Things like in Eastern Europe and inflation here where we're at, and gasoline prices. And, that's probably a rabbit hole that I don't want to personally cross. But let's talk about the here and now. Okay, so we've recognized that the market has kind of flattened, if not dropped in certain areas. We talked a little bit about it, not in entirely great depth or length at all, but the Pocket Change Market Report that I do every Saturday morning and Wednesdays, within the last two market reports, I have personally found that some of the coins have already began to drop down. Okay, they weren't selling for nearly as strong money as they used to. As a matter of fact, it was beginning to look a little bit more normal, compared to what I've seen back in 2019. All right, which is a good thing. Now, where are we at in all of this? What should you guys do? Believe me, everything that's in this video is not financial advice, but I want you guys to put it in perspective and think about where you're at in your collecting. We are still somewhat at the very height of the market for numismatics. Okay, that's undeniable. People are still paying big money for things, but we're also seeing drop offs in certain other areas. So let's talk a little bit about what might you do now, while the market's still good. All right, so some would say that the best kind of like easy pick is just to sell everything, right? Because that sounds like what BlueRidgeSilverhound is telling you. Now, I'm not telling you to do that. I don't want you to sell the farm because some internet Joe Schmo tells you to do that. You know, yeah, I'm upgraded from my mom's basement, and I'm now living in the attic. So would you trust a guy that lives in that way? But think long and hard about the way the economy works, because contrary to popular belief, when we get to the actual pit of the market, the same way that we did back in 2008, 2009, where things crashed, housing crashed, price of gas crashed. I remember when it was under $1 a gallon. That was a relatively recent time. Only 13 years ago, where we saw those kind of things. But at the same time, we saw a very burgeoning precious metals market. The coin market was very nice and very healthy 13 years ago. So we go through these ebbs and flows, and the people that actually do well and make money are in times of like this, where they're able to actually track the line graph, that they look and read at online, and they track these things to about the point, what they call it, capitulation. I'm not 100% adept to the stock market and what certain line graphs mean, but that turning point where things bottom out, they flatten for just a little while, and then they begin to come back up. People go all in during the times at the lowest absolute market of anything, and then they sit on it until that point where they sell it, and then they make all their money. And then when they sell it at the very height, which is kind of like where we're at right now, while we're seeing a little bit of a downward pressure on the coin market, we're beginning to understand that while the market's still up here, you could certainly sell some of the unwanted things, unwanted coins, unwanted sports cards. Sports cards have been dropping, by the way, like a rock in just the last like 6 months. But you take advantage of the market up here, you're selling, and it could be any dollar level. We're not talking about, tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars in product. It might very well be some of these varieties, these repunchment marks, these minor errors, laminations, and things like that. For the longest time, you could easily get $5, $10, $20 a piece for those. But now that we're recognizing the market's kind of dipping a little bit, now might be a good time to sell some of the marginal, very minor type of things. All right. And that's where ultimately I'm trying to get you guys to kind of realize that this is currently an open door, an open opportunity for you guys to move on from your unwanted items. Okay. Now, part two to this whole thing, because obviously we're at a point where we could sell these items and still maximize the amount of money given the actual market that still exists. We're not going to talk about when it gets to the very bottom. That's going to be a video for another time. Let's say it takes a year down the road, maybe 2 years. Maybe it could be short term. Maybe we just have to get through what they call the numismatic summer doldrums. All right. And then in September, people are going to be buying. That's going to be the bottom of the market. It upswings a little bit through the holidays. It could be the case. But what if we're in a longer, sustainable slowdown where the market has to kind of adjust and get back to pre-pandemic levels? It could very well take 2 years. It could take 3 years. But we're going to kind of cross that bridge once we get there. All right. And we're going to know. We're going to take a look at the market and see how it performs. I wouldn't necessarily say if I was looking for that high profile chase piece, I would certainly do more shopping around than I normally would, say, just picking up whatever I can because it's like the only available one out there. But the first part of it is recognizing the coins that maybe, you need to trim down. They have the market. They're minor in retrospect. All right. It could be some of the worldwide, kind of like 80% weird silver coins that you have. They're like, I stack silver, but I prefer to not have these. But while the market's still decent and there's still a premium on 80% junk silver, might as well sell it, right? So here comes part two to this conversation. Okay, and this is something that I always get a lot of feedback on my videos. I have so and so, I have this, I have that, I have two of these, I have that same coin that you talked about in your video. Okay, how do I sell those coins? Where do I go to sell? Who do I talk to? Can you sell it for me? Now, me right here, I'm a consultant, okay? I'm an educator for a lot of you. However, I do not buy the coins, all right? I have my own collecting kind of direction. I'm sticking to it. I just don't buy anything or everything to help appease or help kind of suppress something that's going on here with this individual. And there's always been, and I've talked about it time and time again, there's always been the couple of like incredibly reliable sources to sell these at. Your least reliable is going to be the coin dealer right here because they won't realize and give you 100% of the potential of some of the more niche coins out there. Like let's say you walked in and you had this really epic early 1920s trade token collection. All right, you walk into a coin shop. Okay, they're going to see something that maybe they're not 100% bought into because it's an incredibly niche type of collection. They may either do one of two things. They're either going to give you like $2 a piece for them, but on the back of their head, they know they could sell them online. Keep in mind, dealers have the opportunity to sell the things that come into their shop through an online presence. Okay, the world is much bigger. You have more bandwidth when you're selling these niche items out into the internet. Okay, so they're either going to buy them from you for like $1 or $2 a piece. They're going to kind of like throw some sort of like dog and pony show telling you, well, nobody's really buying these. I shouldn't even be buying them. Here's what I'll do. I'll give you $1.50 for each one of these. Okay, maybe you had like 100 of them, and that's $150, but come to find out it's a collection that's worth maybe $3,000. If you don't do the research about what you have, you shouldn't have a business either selling it or collecting into it. You have to understand where that market is. And it's going to be incredibly crucial that you realize this before you decide to walk out the door and you're like, man, I need the money right now. I'm going to go to the coin shop and sell these. Oftentimes, it's going to be a losing battle. Now, the whole selling thing can be a little bit confusing, if not a little bit maddening, because there are people that just have no concept or belief in the internet world. They don't believe in Facebook Marketplace, all the amazing buy sell trade coin groups that's on there. A lot of people really don't know about what is out there on a BST level in all of these social media sites. If you're old school and you're not using them yet, you still have these coins you need to sell, your only option is a coin shop. There are people that are resistant to using eBay. And yes, I've had my issues with eBay, but they're still the premier e-commerce platform where you don't have to pay a dedicated monthly premium to them unless you opted to open up your own eBay store. That's a little bit more maintenance intensive. It's like opening your own Shopify store or doing an Amazon store. You have these monthly things that you have to pay for. All right. You might even want to open up, an LLC, things like that, which it becomes more of a business and it's more real than it is actually just, secondhand selling and making it a hobby. It's more of a hobby when you turn into a business. So if you're not utilizing your sources on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is also a big platform as well for coins, not only education, but sales. If you're not using these, you're not going to maximize the potential of what you have. I'm telling you, and you see it through my PCMR, that a lot of these coins are selling on eBay. Again, it's the bandwidth. You're getting all this inventory that you have that is probably a little bit more niche and unique. and you're putting it out here to a much larger audience. You're putting it out front and center to the rest of the world, as opposed to bringing it to a local coin shop and they're telling you, well, I'm not going to buy this because I think it's junk. All right. Trash and treasure conversation. You guys heard that before. So for those of you that are looking to sell, all right, I suggest that you probably watch some of my older videos where I talk about ways that you could liquidate and sell these and possibly make money today. All right. Because you get paid with PayPal, you can do an automatic transfer that's quick and easy. They charge a very small fee for that instant transfer, and you're good to go. But to this point, when we're at the height of the market or we're at the very low of the market, the theme and the main point of this video is you have to do something. If you don't do anything, then you're not taking advantage of anything. When you're up here and you have way too much crap to deal with, and you could certainly use a few bucks, sell it. When you're down here, okay, and when the market's down here, circa 2007, 2006, and before that, buy. Buy till your heart's content, right? You guys remember how cheap silver was back in like 2001, 2002? It was pretty cheap. But you do notice one thing. When you walk into a coin shop and you want to buy, say, 90% silver, or you want to buy silver eagles, they never seem to have any. Gee, I wonder what's happening. People are buying because they knew the $7 an ounce or whatever it was of silver was like way too cheap. And all it took was a significant economic moment in time to energize these asset classes. But you also have to, at the same time, recognize the market function and how it moves and how you're going to move along with it. Right now may not be the best time to buy select type coins because it's still unbelievably expensive. But you could certainly move on with a few pieces that don't fit the numismatic narrative of your collection. And then doing it well while the presence is there, virtually, online, social media. These are just huge, big tools at your leisure. And guess what? Here's a little waking moment for a lot of you. For a lot of you that haven't lived before the year 2000, and I'm sure a lot of my audience have, because on YouTube I have a much bigger demographic of folks that are 30 years old and up. So you guys have certainly, you guys are 1980s babies, 1990s kids that have lived through this time. Keep in mind that what it took to do something on the level of being able to sell on a platform like eBay, where the promoting, the advertising is all free to you today in 2022, you had to pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in the year 1995 to do some of the same self-promotion. And guess what? It was unreliable, and it didn't get your thing out to as many people as eBay does to you. All right? I want you to figure and think about that moment in time. For a lot of my older viewers, do you guys remember how much it costs to promote, to do the advertising, to do print media, to do direct mail, just to get your business recognized in 1995 while the internet was still trying to figure its shit out compared to what it is today? Facebook's free. eBay's free. Everybody seems to split hairs about how much the fees are with PayPal. Guess what? Let's go ahead and look back to 1995. How much were these credit card transaction companies that provide the swipers. I forgot, was it NCR or whoever that company is? They're still in business today. How much were they charging you to do business? If you had your own, say, little mom and pop shop, if you had your own restaurant, these are things that, it used to be, and some people are still like this. Some companies, some businesses are still like this, where they have a little placard or sign or some sort of sheet of paper taped to the desk of where you're paying for your items. Oh, if you're using a credit card, we're going to charge 3%, and they have to add that to the bill. That's yesteryear shit. That's not today. Things are a little bit different. Sure, you have these quick payment services, all right? Your Apple Pay, your Venmos of the world, your PayPals, and Google Pay and everything else. Sure, they charge you a few percent. But keep in mind, what was it like back in the 90s or 80s to operate a business? There were so many fees. Everything was so expensive to run a business and to sell things that sometimes were a lot cheaper to maybe a few dozen people, where eBay does a lot of that work for you. It gets your name and your product out to a much grander audience. I want you guys to think about that. Think about it long and hard before you decide to say, no, I don't trust eBay. I don't trust PayPal. The fees are too high, this and that. For some of you that haven't lived beyond the year 2000 going backwards, I want you to listen to what I just said. Put into perspective how good you got it right now. A lot of the shit that you have handed to you is free. All right? A lot of the mediums and the various platforms in e-commerce stages are free. All right? So I want you guys to think about that. The market is transversing right before our very eyes. Okay, probably gone are the meteoric pitches and values, especially on much more modern coins. It's bound to happen. We're beginning to see that. Is it summer to blame? Could be. Because we're beyond a pandemic period, people actually want to go on vacation. Dealers, coin collectors, registry set owners, they just want to go on vacation. So let's go ahead and do it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed or somewhat enjoyed this video if you hung around for all 23 minutes. But I love you guys. You guys take care. Have a wonderful day. And I'll see you on the next coin video. So long.